So the coffee bean can be traced back to the Horn of Africa, but the story of our coffee bean begins in British Ceylon, in what is now present-day Sri Lanka. Ceylon's hilly geography and warm year-round climate are perfect for growing coffee, and as a result, Ceylonese coffee sales in the early 1800s exceeded 50 million kilograms, and Ceylon became the top exporter of coffee within a few years of coffee's introduction. The boom in Ceylonese coffee caused investors to pour money into Ceylon, and they demolished many hardwood forests and drove out many native animal populations. The biodiversity that was on Ceylon previously gave way to plantation agriculture, and lots of genetically same plants lacking in diversity came into play, the most important of which was the coffee bean. These diversity-lacking plants were highly susceptible to pathogens. Originally, the coffee rust was thought to have been caused by another known fungus. However, it was Henry Marshall Ward in 1880 that discovered that the coffee rust was entirely a different species, and that the coffee rust entered through the bottom of the leaf by exploiting the stomatal pores. He also found that the rust could lay dormant for years and only needed moisture to reawaken, which is perfect come monsoon season. However, he also did not discover how the rust could be beaten. There were other theories posed by other scientists at the time, but these theories often relied on unreliable evidence and faulty experiments, and they were all refuted by Ward. So, as a result of the coffee rust, virtually all coffee plants in Ceylon were killed by 1900. However, on the bright side, Ceylon proved a fantastic place to grow tea instead. Then, in the mid to late 1900s, around 1970, the coffee rust was once again found in Brazil. Why was this so important? Well, the coffee rust had spread to all other continents of the world and was found in Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, North America, and Europe. But the last stronghold of coffee growing and coffee cultivation in South America was thought to have been untouched by the coffee rust. However, coffee rust spores from the west coast of Africa, sometime in the 1900s, had drifted by the wind into Brazil, Argentina, and other South American countries. To this day, scientists still do not know how to fully kill coffee rust, as they are highly resistant to modern-day fungicides. So far, scientists only use fungicides and other biological and chemical controls to exterminate coffee rust, often with little to no results.
Spread of coffee rust and environmental aspects. Himalaya vastatrix, or coffee rust, spreads through spores that are released by rain and wind to go impact other coffee trees. When grown in a monoculture, whereas all the trees are farmed close together with no other varieties or plants, this becomes very dangerous because the fungi can spread from tree to tree very rapidly in wet seasons. Higher altitudes have shown to help prevent coffee rust, so farmers move their plantations higher into the mountains. Despite their efforts, mutations in the fungus and warmer temperatures have now recently allowed the fungi to reach even higher altitudes and decimate more coffee plants.
Coffee rust is of the phyla Basidiomycota. Basidiomycetes normally prefer sexual reproduction, but coffee rust is unique in many ways. Most rust fungi have up to 5 spore stages. Coffee rust produces 3 different spore types: the eurythmiaspores, teleospores, and basidiospores. Coffee rust reproduces by asexual reproduction of the eurythmiaspores. There is no known use for the teleospores and basidiospores, as typically rusts have a second host which is the source for sexual reproduction, but coffee rust has no second host. The coffee plant is infected by a uridinospore, often transmitted by wind or rain disturbing the pustules on the plant. The uridinospore lands on a susceptible host and germinates, entering through the stomatal pores, penetrating the leaf with an aprosoria. The pathogen colonizes within the plant, draining nutrients by way of haustoria. After about 3 weeks, the orange pustules characteristic of a rust form. These are the uridinosporic sori, the place where uridinospores are reproduced. The pustules then begin releasing millions of spores to continue infecting other plants. Coffee rust causes premature leaf fall, depriving the plant of a way to take in nutrients, effectively killing the plant.
In 1880s, people in Zealand used sulfur-based fungicide to control the coffee rust. Then, in 1970s, 80-kilometer coffee leaf safety zone around the infected area was established in Brazil against the spreading of coffee rust. Currently, triamcinolone, cyproconazole, and flutriafol are used as fungicides against coffee rust. Resistant varieties of Robusta coffee have been developed, but it has lower quality. Another resistant variety was widely planted in Honduras but lost its resistance in 2017. The most advanced idea to control coffee rust is to treat fungi with fungi.
Due to the devastating effects that rust has on the coffee plant, the economic impacts are huge. After crude oil, coffee is the most sought-after commodity in the entire world. The whole industry of coffee, including trading, selling, is worth over $100 billion. There's even financial contracts called futures, which are traded every day on Wall Street and throughout the entire financial industry. The impact coffee has is extreme to the economy, not just the farmers. First major economic meltdown due to coffee rust was in modern-day Sri Lanka. Talked about in the history of coffee rust slides, this was a huge problem and it devastated the entire island when it came to their economy. Their economy was based solely around coffee, and train tracks were built and so forth. So once coffee rust attacked their main source of income, the economy just extremely fell on its face and they were forced to switch to producing tea. Historians believe that the socioeconomic factor of coffee rust killing the economy there and forcing tea is why the British people drink tea so often. More recently, in Latin America, just in 2012, there was huge coffee rust outbreaks. Over 10 countries were affected by this, and major crop yields went down that year. With the yields going down in one of the most highly producing areas of coffee, the price of coffee shot up. This was an extreme problem for the farmers and the people living in these countries because it caused their income to severely go down, and then they were completely out of work. Thus, the whole entire GDP of the country also went down. Starbucks, one of the biggest names in the coffee industry, is taking a really active role in fighting this issue. Not only does it affect them, but they know it affects the farmers that live in poverty-stricken areas. So what they've done is they went to Costa Rica, bought acres of farm, and now they're testing plants over and over to see what kind of hybrids are most rust resistant, and then they're donating these trees to coffee farmers because this will help stimulate the whole country's economy and give these farmers a reliable coffee tree that can produce income and coffee.